4.3.8, analyze the use of variables, constants, and operators. So the things we had defined up there, and actually I went way beyond defining them there, so these two are kind of combined. But let's analyze a little bit further when you would use variables, when you would use constants, and a little bit about operators. A little bit more about operators. So here's a great example of a time where you really should use a constant. So I'm going to declare a constant up here, final, making sure that it will be constant by that reserved word. Final int num players. Let's say that we're doing some sort of program for a soccer team. So num players is 22. So that could be stipulated by the league or by the tournament or whatever, and it could change. That's the point. This could change, and so if it changes at some point, and you've just got to picture a much bigger program here, where many lines of code, and we use the number of players many places. Well, if we change this, then we have to go to those many places and change it. Well, what if we miss one, right? So that's where it's better right up at the top. And by the way, as I said before, and I just made a mistake here, if we're declaring a final, we should, it's not necessary, but we should, by convention, make it all caps. That's how we recognize constants from that point on, though again, I'll repeat, it's not a requirement of Java. So right, if the number of players to be used in this program, several places, changes, we only have to change it once, one place up here. Every other place we can't change it. So there's no way down below in the middle of the program somebody could go num players is now 20. Can't do that. It's an error. Because it's oh, we didn't do the static. Yeah, now it's an error because you cannot change a final variable. By making it final once at the top, it cannot be changed inadvertently anywhere else in the program. It can only be changed at its initialization up here, and that can be a good thing. For other things, though, in the middle of the program that you're only using within a function or just in a limited way, there's no reason to make the final. So we could go down here, int minutes played per game. And it could start at being 45, so let's say 30, so let's say 60. So maybe in the first part of the program for the first round, the minutes played per game is 60. But at a certain point, that needs to change because they're for the playoffs or whatever. There's some reason why this will change. And so down here, we're going to copy, paste this, and we'll just change it. We'll go just completely different, that it's the full 90 minutes. And that's fine. So for up here, all this stuff, for lines and lines and lines, maybe the minutes played per game is 60, but we get into the playoffs and it changes. We don't have to have a different variable name at that point. We can still call it minutes played per game. It's just that it changes, and that's fair enough. And the other thing, of course, is that you use a variable when it will vary. It's possible that the minutes played per game should not vary through the course of this program. Maybe, maybe not. Since we haven't made it final, we can change it if we so desire. But in lots of other cases, things do change. So how about this one? How about int, what would change? The score. So int score of team 1. Okay, it starts at 0. Score of team 2 starts at 0. Throughout the game, who knows how we're going to program this, but throughout the game we could be recording the team's scores. They vary. So you would use a variable. At some point, somebody's going to input the fact that there's been a goal, and so score of team 1 plus plus. Right? Variables because they vary, or because they may vary, but not necessarily. Constants when you definitely don't want to change them at all, or if you do change, you'd like to change it just once at the beginning of the program. terms of operators, analyze the use of operators, there's only one thing that I can really think of beyond like the choice between mod and regular division, and that would be what I've already used right here. That is the same as doing the following. Score of team 1 is assign score of team 1 plus 1. Both of those accomplish exactly the same thing. So at the end of this line it's going to be 1, at the end of this line it's going to be 2. Right, start at 0, 1, 2. The one thing that I would mention here is that IB does not like the use of this shortcut, and there are good reasons for that. The one main reason that there is for that in general is that there can be unexpected consequences, because you can use the plus plus or the plus equals or all those shortcuts either postfix, as I've already done above, or prefix. So you can go plus plus score of team 1, and at line 29 that's going to bring it from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3. Everything is as expected. But what can happen as you get a little more sophisticated with your use of these shortcuts is you can have them combined, and when you combine them and you do, what could I do that you would understand at this point? Let's just say if plus plus score team and blah blah blah. So you just somehow you're using these shortcuts, not isolated on an individual line, but in combination with other stuff and other shortcuts. You really can have pretty strange consequences. And so for that reason, which we'd never really get to a point where we'd be in that sort of situation, nevertheless it is true, it does exist. Because of that reason, it does exist. IB prefers that you don't use this, except in a for loop, which we'll see later on. But just remember that, particularly for examination, that they would prefer to see things done that way.